Today's lesson is Weirdly Wonderful, Fun Facts About Octopuses. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today, in our animal unit for the month of March, we're going to talk about a sea creature. And that sea creature is referred to as an octopus, one of those slimy, slithery kinds of creatures that you see in aquariums that have those long tentacles, and they seem pretty intelligent.
That's true. When I was a kid, we didn't know nearly what we do now about octopuses. I seem to remember them being slightly frightening. You'd hear stories of divers meeting them when they're down there scuba diving and having the octopus wrap their long arms, their tentacles around the divers. And of course, there's the famous scene from the science fiction story of Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues. I think they're fighting a squid in that one, but they're similar. And they're always kind of scary creatures from under the ocean with all those long arms. But now we know they're actually incredibly intelligent, fascinating creatures.
So we've got some fun facts about octopuses in today's lesson. Let's get to it. Let's listen to the first part and introduce this topic to you right now.
Weirdly wonderful. Fun facts about octopuses. You probably don't spend much time thinking about octopuses, but maybe you should. These fascinating creatures possess hidden depths that are well worth exploring, so read on to find out what makes octopuses so unique.
大家好，第一部分介绍动词 possess， 它的意思是拥有或是具备。例如 This boy possesses rare talent and skills. 这个男孩有难得一见的天分和技能。或者 Celine doesn't possess the skills required for this job. Celine 不具备这项工作所需要的技能。
Okay, so again in the title, we've got the word weirdly. Weird is the adjective that describes something rather strange or bizarre, unusual. And here we're making it an adverb because they are weirdly wonderful. They are wonderful in a very strange or weird way.
Exactly right. And fun facts about octopuses. So let's get into it and we'll find out more about them. The first paragraph tells us you probably don't spend much time thinking about octopuses. All right, I guess that's a fair thing to say for most people. Unless you're a marine biologist or just a fan of these interesting animals, most of us don't spend much time in our average day. But the article advises us, but maybe you should. Maybe we should think about them a little bit more. Why? Well, these fascinating creatures possess hidden depths that are well worth exploring. So read on to find out what makes octopuses so unique. There you go. That's why we should think about octopuses more. They possess hidden depths that are well worth exploring. To possess something is to have something. Of course, anything that you own that is your property, you possess those things. But we can also talk about it being a skill or a talent, something natural that you were just born with. You might be possessed with a musical ability, very good intelligence. You learn things quickly. Maybe you're possessed with an eye for art or something like that. So if you have something, you possess it. And in this case, the octopuses possess hidden depths. They're much more interesting, much deeper. We often use deep as another way of saying interesting or profound. There's a lot more going on there than you would expect. So let's read on to find out what makes octopuses so unique. If there's one fact everyone knows about octopuses, it's that they have 8 tentacles. But did you know that tentacles aren't the only thing they have a large number of? For starters, they have 3 hearts, one to pump their blue, yes, blue blood around their bodies, and 2 for directing blood to the gills to collect oxygen. As if this wasn't strange enough, octopuses also have a large donut-shaped central brain located between their eyes and 8 smaller independent brains, one in each tentacle. These extra nerve centers process information from the environment, whereas the central brain is responsible for decision-making.
第二部分来看到片语 for starters， 表示首先或是第一。例如 For starters, let's get a map of the city so we won't get lost. 首先让我们去找一张这个城市的地图，才不会迷路。或是 There's a lot to do before your vacation. For starters, you'll need to find your passport. 你要度假前有很多事要处理，首先你得找到你的护照。接着介绍名词 oxygen， 它的意思是氧或是氧气。举例来说， The oxygen masks were released when the plane suddenly began shaking. 飞机突然开始摇晃时，氧气面罩纷纷掉落。又或者说，Without oxygen, fires are unable to keep burning and will go out. 没有氧气，火就无法继续燃烧，且会熄灭。再来，我们看到连接词 whereas， 它的意思是但是或是然而。例如 Tammy enjoys living in the city, whereas Matthew prefers the countryside. Tammy 喜欢住在城市，然而 Matthew 更喜欢乡间。也可以说 Ian prefers to work alone,Whereas Lester enjoys working with others. Ian 倾向独自作业，但 Lester 却喜欢与他人共事。
Okay, let's talk about the second part of our lesson for today. It says, if there's one fact everyone knows about octopuses, it's that they have 8 tentacles. So if you ask people what they know about octopuses, they'll probably say, for the first thing, they'll say, oh, they have 8 legs or 8 tentacles. This is what we call the legs that octopuses have. They're their legs, and they're specifically referred to as tentacles, which goes back to a Latin word which means to touch. So they use these legs, these tentacles, to actually touch and feel their way around the world.
Very, very interesting. But did you know that tentacles aren't the only thing they have a large number of? So, of course, they have 8 tentacles, 8 arms. That's very unusual. Of course, in the animal world, just spiders, I guess, would be their only competition. But that's not the only thing they have a large number of, more than you would expect. For starters, it says they have 3 hearts. One to pump their blue, yes, blue blood around their bodies. We'll pause there. So this is another thing that is very unusual about them, and we know that there will be more than one thing. It says for starters. So this is sort of just beginning our list of strange and unusual facts about octopuses. It's a good place to start. Very impressive. 3 hearts. Yeah, that is highly unusual. One is to pump their blue. Yes, blue. It repeats that because you might sort of hear that and think you misheard it. What, blue? Did you say blue? Yes, blue blood. You heard that correctly. It pumps that blood, of course, around their bodies. And then the other 2, it says, the other 2 hearts are for directing blood to the gills to collect oxygen. Very interesting. So they kind of have hearts dedicated for different functions in their body. When we talk about gills in a fish, we're basically thinking of lungs. The gills of a fish and the lungs of an air-breathing land-based animal, for example, work in different ways but do similar things. They get oxygen and they put it into the blood.
Yeah, let's talk about oxygen. Indeed, oxygen is an element. I believe its atomic number is 8. And, of course, oxygen is quite prevalent in the atmosphere. We need oxygen to breathe. I think there's about 20% oxygen in the atmosphere. And oxygen, of course, is very abundant in the Earth's crust. So, indeed, oxygen is all over the place. And, of course, you need oxygen to live. And octopuses need oxygen to live, too. So they need to use those gills to collect oxygen from the water. And yes, indeed, this has to do with those extra hearts they have. We'll get to their brains later on, but indeed they have those 3 hearts. 1 to pump that blue blood around their bodies, and 2 extra hearts to get that blood to their gills so they can get that oxygen.
As if this wasn't strange enough, octopuses also have a large donut-shaped central brain located between their eyes and 8 smaller independent brains, 1 in each tentacle. There you go. Another thing on our list of unusual things. We started off with their larger-than-expected number of hearts, and now they have a larger-than-expected and also a strangely shaped brain, a large donut-shaped shaped central brain. So imagine the shape of a donut, kind of round with a circle in the middle, and that is basically the approximate shape of an octopus's brain, very different from our sort of round, lumpy brain. That is between their eyes, kind of where you'd expect it, in their head, not too different from ours. But they also have 8 smaller independent brains, one in each tentacle, showing how that they can be so skillful with the way they move and manipulate things using all 8 of their arms all at the same time. It takes an extra brain in each tentacle or each arm.
We don't have extra brains in our arms and legs, but octopuses have a brain in each tentacle. And these extra nerve centers process information from the environment, whereas the central brain is responsible for decision-making. So we are comparing two things here, or are mentioning two things together, so that's why we use the word whereas. It's when you compare things or when you present information in pairs. So we could say, on one hand, John likes pizza, whereas Lisa likes hamburgers.
All right, that's a very interesting look at the anatomy of an octopus, what makes them such unusual animals on the inside. Let's talk about some other things that make octopuses so different, so unique in the way they behave or the way they do things in the world. We'll find out all about that in our next paragraph. Unsurprisingly, given their complex nervous systems, octopuses are highly intelligent. They can solve problems and have been observed in the wild using tools, skills more commonly associated with mammals and some bird species. Veined octopuses have been documented using coconut shells for protection, while blanket octopuses are known to rip the tentacles off jellyfish and use them as weapons. Octopuses in captivity, meanwhile, have learned how to complete puzzles and open jars to earn food rewards.
第三部分先看到 mammal 这个单字，它是名词，指的是哺乳动物。例如 Whales are classified as mammals because they're warm-blooded and they feed their young with their own milk. 鲸鱼被分类为哺乳动物，因为它们是温血动物且会哺乳后代。又或者说 Bats live over 3 times longer than other mammals that are of a similar size. 蝙蝠的寿命是其他体型相似哺乳动物的3倍以上。接着是动词document 指的是记录或是记载，例如 This book documents the history of the United States. 这本书记载美国的历史。再来介绍片语 in captivity 表示被囚禁或是被关押。我们可以说 After the negotiation, the kidnappers agreed to release some hostages who are in captivity. 经过谈判，绑匪同意释放部分被囚禁的人质。又或者说Wild animals tend to live shorter than those that are bred in captivity. 野生动物的寿命往往比被圈养的动物短。下一个是单字 reward， 这个名词的意思是奖励或是报酬。例如 As a reward for doing a trick, Simone gave her dog a piece of chicken. Simone 给她的狗狗一块鸡肉作为表演特技的奖励。最后一个例子 I'm offering a reward of $50 to the person who finds my camera. 我提供50美元奖赏给寻获我相机的人。
Okay, let's talk about the third part of our lesson right now. It begins by saying, unsurprisingly, given their complex nervous systems, octopuses are highly intelligent. So given here, when we consider that they have these complex nervous systems, then it's not surprising that they are highly intelligent. Indeed, they've got all those different brains. You would think that they're quite intelligent, and they may actually possess the ability to write or speak or something like that. They're not quite that intelligent, but still, they're pretty smart in other ways.
Absolutely. As we read, they can solve problems and have been observed in the wild using tools, skills more commonly associated with mammals and some bird species. So there you go. That's a pretty clear sign of intelligence. Tool use in animals is pretty unusual. And if we go back in human history, go back several hundreds of thousands or millions of years, humans using tools was one of the first things that scientists kind of point to that shows how different we are from other apes and monkeys and things like that. We'll add octopuses to the list of tool-using animals. And to use a tool, to be able to actually figure out what you're doing and how a tool can help you, to actually pick up the tool and make the correct movements to do the action you want, all of that takes a bit of learning. That's why obviously even babies can't use tools. They just sort of wave them around their heads or something like that. So octopuses use tools in the wild, and as the article says, these are skills, highly intelligent skills, that are commonly associated or linked or seen in certain mammals, like apes, for example, and some bird species. So there are some intelligent birds that use tools. Of course, apes, chimpanzees use tools. I think raccoons have been seen to use tools, but not many other animals, and certainly not many undersea animals.
Right, so here in this sentence, we've got the word mammals, and that refers to a kind of animal that can give live birth for the most part. They have hair on their bodies or fur, and the females will nourish their young with milk. Okay, so yes, we've got the mammals here, and of course, we think of mammals as being highly intelligent and that they can use tools. Like Mike mentioned, some examples of mammals that can use tools, and we've also got some bird species that can use tools as well. I think crows are pretty smart little devils.
Smart.
Yeah, and ravens too. They've been seen to use tools. I think even one species of crow can use two tools, one tool to get another tool in order to get the treat or something like that. So that represents some complex thinking there. And indeed, I guess octopuses can use tools just like these other mammals and some bird species.
Very cool. In the next sentence, we get a couple of examples of octopus tool use, just to see how clever they can be. Veined octopuses, so this is the name of one type of octopus. Veined octopuses have been documented using coconut shells for protection. There you go, using a coconut shell as kind of, well, a shell or a shield, the way a crab would use a shell. These octopuses have been seen to pick up these coconut shells. Maybe they're floating on the surface of the water, or they've sunk down onto the sand below. They pick them up and they use them for protection, basically to defend themselves, to give the fish that's trying to eat them something hard to bite that isn't the octopus. And this has been documented. When we use document like this as a verb, we're basically saying it's been seen and recorded by scientists in some kind of way. It wasn't just a tourist who said, hey, I saw a cool thing on holiday. No, it's scientists studying octopuses. They observe them probably over a long period of time. And this is behavior that they have definitely seen more than once. It's not just an unusual, strange situation. This is something this type of octopus has been seen to do many times, using a coconut shell to protect itself, probably from a predator that wants to eat it. Here's another example. Blanket octopuses. What do they do, Roger?
What do they do? Well, they seem kind of mean here. They have been documented, or they are known, to rip the tentacles off jellyfish and use them as weapons. So these are different kinds of octopuses here. We've got veined octopuses, and we've got blanket octopuses. And the latter will rip the tentacles off of jellyfish. There are more creatures in the sea that have tentacles besides octopuses. I think squid have them and cuttlefish have them as well. In this particular case, though, jellyfish have tentacles. You've probably seen jellyfish at your local aquarium. They're quite beautiful. They look like little bits of cotton floating in the water and kind of moving a little bit. And in this particular case, the blanket octopuses will attack those jellyfish, and they'll rip the tentacles off of those jellyfish, not just because they're being mean, but because they're going to use those tentacles as weapons to maybe defend themselves against other predators.
Interesting. Of course, jellyfish tentacles are often poisonous. They will sting other animals, so the octopus knows that, and it uses the jellyfish's tentacles as its own poisonous sword that it kind of waves around when other fish are bothering it. Octopuses in captivity, meanwhile, have learned how to complete puzzles and open jars to earn food rewards. Another example of problem solving and tool use and things like that. This is interesting because this happens in captivity. When we talk about animals in captivity, generally we're talking about wild animals that are now in a zoo or in a research location. I guess we could talk about farm animals as being in captivity, but they usually are. So it's not really worth pointing out that the cows are in captivity on a farm. That's what farm cows do. Whereas we're talking about wild animals, having a lion or a tiger in captivity would not be ideal, right? You want them wild, not locked up in cages. That's the idea. But for research purposes, it is useful. And in those situations, scientists have seen octopuses completing puzzles, so solving puzzles of different types. I'm sure the scientists set up color puzzles or shape puzzles or things like that, simple things, but the octopuses figure them out quickly. And they've also been seen to open jars to earn food rewards. They'll put a tasty crab in a glass jar with a lid on it, close it tightly, put it in the octopus's tank, and the octopus will be able to figure out how to open it. The other cool thing I've heard about this experiment, they've actually had an octopus watch another octopus opening the jar, and then that octopus just learns by watching. And learning by watching and not having someone kind of show you is a sign of even higher intelligence.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分的最后一句有提到章鱼的中枢大脑负责决策。他写说 The central brain is responsible for decision making。 这边我们来整理一下 be responsible for 的相关用法。好，第一种呢，可以用来表达出负责什么什么、掌管什么或是对什么负有全责的意思，就像课文的用法。那它不带有负面的语义。举例来说 Who's responsible for organizing the event this year? 今年是谁负责筹划那场活动的呢？第二个意思可以表达出对什么负有责任，像是意外啊、过错、罪行等等，要对它负有责任。那这时候就会带有负面语义了。像 The bus driver was responsible for the accident。那位公车司机要对这起意外事故负责。好，那第三个呢，我们可以表达造成、导致的语义，可以用来表达是什么什么的原因。像 A lightning strike was responsible for the fire. 雷击是造成那场火灾的原因。那么课文第三部分有一句则提到 Blanket octopuses are known to rip the tentacles of jellyfish. 毯子章鱼已知会扯下水母触手来作为武器使用。这边它用到 be known to do something 来表达已知会做某事。那我们来整理相关句型。known 它可以表达已知的、知名的。那我们看第一个句型是 be known to 加上原形动词，可以表达已知会做某事，以做某事出名。像是 The king was known to be cruel. 大家都知道那位国王很残暴。或者是 Regular exercise is known to have many health benefits. 大家都知道规律运动有许多健康益处。那第二个介绍的句型是 be known as. 这是表达说以名称啊、身份等等而为人所知，被称作什么什么。那么 as 后面接的名词通常是个身份、职业、称号等等。举例来说 Paris is known as the city of light. 巴黎被称作光之城。第三个补充的句型是 be known for. 它是表达以某个特色啊、特质、成就闻名，后面可以接名词或动名词。那我们就先用 be known for 加名词来造句，像是 Paris is known for its romantic atmosphere. 巴黎以其浪漫氛围而闻名。那再看到 be known for 加上动词 ing 的例句，像是 The city is known for having some of the best museums in the world. 这座城市以拥有世界上最好的一些博物馆而闻名。好，那以上就是今天重点整理，我们来回顾这些单字吧。
Weirdly. Somewhat weirdly, Luther's dog likes to eat watermelon. Possess. Sharon possesses a remarkable talent for playing the piano. Oxygen. The patient suffered a brain injury due to a lack of oxygen. Whereas. Bert loves hot weather, whereas his sister prefers cold weather. Mammal. The elephant is the largest land mammal on Earth, but it is still much smaller than the blue whale. Document. Dr. Lewis needs to document the experiment's results before drawing any conclusions. Reward. The puppy got a treat as a reward for learning a new trick.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.